What if your spiritual awakening requires you to go through madness of some sort or other and mess in order to really fully embody yourself as human and divine? And it's such a horribly lovely journey to go through that madness. Today's guest, Jon Kohrs, is with us as we dive into this topic of madness, navigating your life and relationships and personal discovery and more. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves. And, you know, I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird. I love having these conversations week after week. It helps me to make sense of life, to put a context to it, to give myself a little map or some kind of way of understanding why all these crazy things happen in my life and why I do have done crazy things. And how do I make sense of all that? How do I move through this human experience in the most graceful, beautiful way possible? And, on that topic, we're going to have a really excellent conversation today. Some of you have known me for a while. Some of you have just been listening to the podcast, and that's totally fine. But if you didn't know, I also write a lot of books. And, some of you may have read my first book, Awakening to Me, One Woman's Journey to Self-Love, which was my book of charting the course out of madness. That's actually the message I got from Spirit. Spirit said, upon me basically 2 months earlier, leaving my 20-year relationship and moving out into my own townhome, Spirit said to me, "You're going to start writing a book." Wow. Well, I always wondered if I would write books because I did love literary journalism in college. Like I admired people who were writers, and I was like, well, I want to be a writer. And I ended up being a high-tech writer, which is not exactly the same thing. And all of a sudden, Spirit's telling me, "You're going to write a book." I'm like, really? What's the title? And I just told you what the title is, Awakening to Me. And then I heard Spirit say, "You're going to chart the course out of madness." And I thought to myself, yep, that's kind of about where I'm at right now. I'm in some madness. I know that I've been in some madness for quite some time because I was doing things that Kerri, never saw herself doing ever. And here I am doing these crazy things. Like, what am I doing? And who am I? And that's what prompted me to leave my marriage, because I thought there's no way I can keep this going. I cannot keep going like this. This is not acceptable to me. So we need to end this narrative, and I need to start fresh, because whatever is going on, it needs to change. And I feel like I need massive change, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting different results. And if you read Awakening to Me, you'll see a horror story. Like literally, some people have said to me, it's like a haunted house, Kerri. And you just kept walking back into the haunted house of like unavailable men, and just expecting something to be different. You just kept choosing the same guy over and over. And we're reading the pages and we're going, no, we can already tell it's not going to work out. And then you go anyway and you do it anyway. And it's, it's really a great book because it exposes a lot of those things. Well, so read my book, but also my guest today, Jon Kohrs, he wrote also a very transparent expose about his life journeys, and it's called Horribly Lovely. And it's really about falling in love, doing the thing you think you're going to do. You get married, you have kids. All of a sudden you're divorced. What happened? Like, how did that even happen? How did the love die? How did this all thing get twisted up? How did all of this happen? And he approaches it with raw honesty, like me. So we get each other. We're really,
Mhm.
since the moment we met, we're like, we know you. I know you, you know me. And so we're going to have a great conversation today. You know, if you don't know anything about Jon, Jon brings deeply original voice to questions of identity, healing, and the messy, beautiful work of becoming. His writing defies genre. He weaves symbolic narratives that are dreamlike, lyrical, and poetic, inviting readers into raw, like really that raw stuff that we all have to deal with. And we think it's only us, so we hide it shamefully. But actually, we're sharing you these stories so that you know you're not alone. And that this unfiltered beauty is being human. It's being human. And so Jon's also got roots in shamanism, the Enneagram, Jungian alchemy, you know, because of course, after you go through an experience like this, you study everything because you're trying to figure out what just happened. Right. And so, yeah, he's inviting us, you know, play with the clay of the soul. So I'm so grateful to have you on the show. The first time we met, I was like, yeah, Jon, you're my kind of person. I get you. I get your experience. Yeah. Say more.
Yeah. Oh, it's a joy talking to you. I think that we probably spoke in total maybe 45 minutes. And in those, we just go into this like plutonic cave that we just go right down into things. Just like before this call, talking about completions this year in the nine numerology of 2025, and how did it start in 2016 and your journey to Asangate in Peru, and I was there a year after you, and it's just we find ourselves in these very intersection places of journeys. So no, it's an honor to be here, and I'm glad I met you. Um, and I love your intro. There's like 100 places we can jump in.
I know. Where do you want to go?
Let's do madness. Let's go straight into madness.
Madness.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it really is like I feel like I really understand. There's this feeling of aloneness in the madness because you have to detach from society and religion and expectations and this persona and mask you've worn your whole life and your ego that's trying to serve some purpose to belong in society. And it's like all of that just crumbles and you're left in this free fall. And your reality is so different than everybody else's reality. Um, and it's easy to gaslight yourself, like to convince yourself that this is not your reality and that you're not in this place. And it's really hard. It's a really, really, really hard journey of being alone. And I would guess, like you, the only salvation I had was writing. I mean, there were just weeks of just the only thing I could do was listen to the thousand voices in my head trying to explain the a billion layers of weaving that was happening in my life while I was just trying to type on a keyboard. And I remember writing and just thinking, I don't know what happens after this. The only thing I have are my fingers and these words. And after this, I can be done. I'm happy to leave. There are moments of suicidal ideation and just not wanting to be here. And it was just like, I have to write this book. And after I'm done, I can be done. And this search for truth is like, what is the deepest truth of me? And that's like falling into that giant pit was all I had. And it felt that way for a long, long, long time. Do the same thing as you through relationships and this classroom of love that like rewired who the heck I thought I was. So if that feels normal to anybody listening on the call, you are not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's a natural. There's like the idea that you have of what it's going to be like, right? To the very innocent idea. It's like, I'm going to have this beautiful wedding and I'm going to do what everybody else does. And I'm going to have kids and all. And then you get into it and it is it takes on a life of its own. And I started really realizing really soon, oh, I'm going to need some help with this. I was in psychotherapy, you know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like I didn't have any help. I was going to weekly psychotherapy sessions, trying to like cope with the volume of like a relationship and kids and all the things and a career and everything. And but I wasn't really being honest with myself. And I think that's what happens after the madness or through the madness, is that we start to become really honest with ourselves, and we start to really listen inside, not like so much looking outside as to like the appearance of things. Cause I was so performative. Like I realized in the first part of my life, like most of the things I did were highly performative. It's just like, I just thought it looked good to do that. And that seemed to be like what people do. So I'll go do that. And not to say I didn't enjoy it, but I did a lot of things that I didn't really enjoy because I thought I had to, like take on a tech writing job because I had to make money. So I thought I have to do that. And I got paid well. It's not like I had a bad job, but it's like that wasn't my passion. But I did keep my passions alive. I did my art and stuff like that. I really wanted to do my art. That's what I wanted to do. But I didn't build a lifestyle to let me do that. Like I didn't marry a partner that wanted that. Right. We didn't have conversations up front like, hey, I really want to be an artist and I'm okay if I live in a van down by the river as long as I can do art. Like that's actually all I really care about. And I know I look like really successful because I am smart and have a really good job and I make a lot of money, but I don't really care about that. But I didn't have that conversation with him. I never said that. I never advocated for myself
Mm-hmm.
in that. And so I chose that sort of pathway where I was doing all the things performatively that was supposed to create a good life. But inside, I was, even though I was carving out time for the thing I loved, I wasn't creating a life that let me do it full
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I can really connect with that. Um, I think for me, looking back to, there was that same thing, performing, trying to look like everybody else in some way, but feeling very different. And you know, getting married when I was 21, buying the house at 22, having kids at 25, getting the good job, getting the pension program. It's like there's some part of me that felt like all the masks I was wearing, I was being really successful. But there was another part of me that was just dying and overwhelmed. And that part's still emerging, but I know that part of me is incredibly highly sensitive. Um, has this capacity to kind of feel space and time, um, can feel a lot of information around me, uh, is channeling constantly. There's a different me. And when I look back, I could kind of, I can tease out all those different parts of me I didn't know fully existed that were trying to emerge, and how much love was really trying to break all these like glass cages I was putting myself in. And I mean, I just remember being married. I just didn't know, like, I didn't know what ADHD or neurodivergence or what an empath was or what a highly sensitive person was. It just, there was no mentors, nobody else. So I just remember being so overstimulated all the time by people's energy and what was happening around me. And I had no boundaries. And I was just like a floating space cadet, like puppet mastering me above my body as I went through life. And no clue how exhausted I really was of trying so hard to wear masks to fit in. And how much energy it was really taking to like constantly absorb everything around me to try to like be family, be in this family that I so desperately wanted. But it was never myself, or never even could be. Like back then, if you said, "Who are you, John?" I that, that answer would have been so surface level. I don't even know how I would have answered it. So it's just how, as you go through, you start to see a self or a soul. I don't know what the right word is. Back then, that was trying so desperately to emerge through this thick calcination that we believed ourselves to be. I even think about it now and I can feel just Oh, how flatlined that felt.
Yeah,
So
flatlined. And that's the expectation, right? Like of our basic society is like we want you to be like this all the time. You can go up, but don't go down.
yeah.
But like what goes up comes down, so like there's also that emotional wave piece of being an empath where like in the empire, in the matrix, they
Mhm.
classify that as like dysregulated. It's like, oh, you're feeling shame, well that's dysregulated. Oh, you're feeling
Mhm.
anger, well that's dysregulated. You're only supposed to feel like neutrality and peace and productivity, and these are the accepted range of things.
Mhm.
And anything other than in ecstasy, oh, that is definitely dysregulated too, because you might stay up for a couple of days on a bender of being really inspired. That's bipolar.
Yeah.
So there's like this
Mhm.
system of like labeling everything, trying to like put it in a little box of like dysfunction and tell you that there's something wrong with you, instead of like giving you what I now know looking back. I will go like, even last week I listened to the Pattern, which I love that app, by the way, is a great app for astrology. And it was saying like, if you have rose colored glasses, or you have like, you can feel the whole room, you can feel everything, you probably have a Neptune complex. And this is how Neptune complex is here to teach you about boundaries and things. I was like, okay, that's way more positive way of approaching this than like you have BPD. You
Yeah.
are
Uh-huh.
you are emotionally dysregulated. It's like, who made that stuff up? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I have my Pluto conjunct my moon in my first house. And if you read Liz Green's work on archetypal astrology, it's great. It's like you've got this deep well, plutonic well of feeling everything, and it's just so enriching and overwhelming in your life. Um, you could say that's highly, ADHD. I'm prone to emotional dysregulation a lot. I absorb people and I get way overstimulated, and I don't know how to, like, I'm processing inside, but sometimes I get so log jammed. There's a billion thoughts and emotions that I don't even know how to communicate. And, my Neptune in my third can be like very savvy and sophisticated and wants to belong and doesn't want to be abandoned. And you could explain it in more beautiful terms of, instead of something being wrong with you or some bad label, it's like, there's a shadow side and a light side to like how we ended up in our planetary uh, tapestry, art, galaxy. Like this thing we were born into is just like a beautiful canvas that we've landed in. And um, there's a lot of good to it, but it's hard. That shame is like so much. It's like, well, you've got to be like this or you can't be like this. And it's just every single time I realize, like, as an empath, you hear that and it's like buried into my body, and billions and trillions of little things, even sensing people around me of a negative sensation. Even randomly, I'll be sitting here and I'll feel a flyer come and hit me. And I'm like, oh, that person just thought of me. And it's
Yeah.
like it's like a lifetime of all these BBs buried in you, and
Mhm.
it's just so hard to get them out of your system, and you just start to feel, I am so wrong for who I am. And the book explores this. Like at the end, it's like this hardwiring of shame that um if nobody else wants to be around me, why am I here? Like I if nobody wants to be present with me and who I really am, what's wrong with me? I might as well just not exist. And there's a deep, deep wiring in that of, how do you just start to see your whole life as this lens of shame? And you're doing everything to try to recover from shame, but you just don't realize it. It's like, if I just give a little bit more in this relationship, if I mask a little bit, if I just say something a little bit different, oh, if I'm just totally attuned with my like telepathic empathy and I can read where they want to go. Um, I found like you develop a trillion patterns to try to exist to somebody else. And then you just put yourself in another glass cage, and it's like cage within cage within cage. And it's all from this like weird empathic spiritual shame strategy. Oh, it's
Yeah.
like you can't get out of it. No matter how hard you try. It's So
And
hard.
you usually pick a partner. I don't know. In my case, I picked a partner that, let's just say, he's a technical writer, but he's so good at finding what's wrong with things that he actually files more bugs than many of the QA people at his companies that he
Yeah.
works. You know, so he's really good at spotting like what's not working and what could be
Yep.
improved and what's, you know, what could be better. And so he turned that lens on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I already have one of those lenses. So it was like double whammy because I had my lens plus his lens focused on me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure I did it back to him because, of course, you know, I'm sure I did. But that was really painful, you know, um, that there's always some kind of problem that needs to be fixed instead of celebrating what is and celebrating what's working and what's good and what's beautiful and what feels good in the relationship. So it became like, and I know that I experienced like deep insecurity about myself, and I still work with that today. Deep insecurity about who I am as a person and the confidence to go out and do what I do. A lot of times I do what I do because I'm just like, fuck it. You know, I mean, that's how I get through it. I just say, fuck it. And I just
Yeah.
go do it. But it doesn't mean that I'm like as confident as some people might perceive me to be. It just means I say, I'm just going to go do it anyway. And I'm
Yep.
going to see what happens and I'm going to trust that it's going to unfold. But like that kind of, it doesn't take away the inner feelings. It doesn't take away that there's this places within me that I need to nourish a lot. Like I
Mm-hmm.
spend a lot of time nourishing these places in my will center and within my heart to let myself know it's okay to be the way I am, like you're talking about. Because we do pick up on these darts and things like that. And they're really quite people don't realize I don't think. I think probably this audience realizes it, but a lot of people mainstream don't realize that thoughts are things. And when you think about somebody, it's not just inside your head, especially if you're projecting it outwards towards that person. And you know, you've got judgment or you're gossiping about that person and you're like gossip, gossip, gossip. And then that person, it is like I just had an experience like that I was mentioning to you where it was so amplified for me because we were working with the elements and I was in the element of water in this particular group setting. And everyone suddenly got very, very angry because it is a decision that I made. By the way, I'm also a manifester. I make decisions, and some of those decisions piss people off if they felt like they didn't have a choice. Yeah. So learning on all fronts here about being an empath and a manifester. But when we do those things, it's like the amplification of the negative energy because people are gossiping and people are angry and people are upset or whatever, and they're putting all that in this space, directing it at me. It was like I literally busted my knee
Yeah.
in two.
Yeah. You were sharing that just in a hardware store.
Yeah,
Uh,
at Costco, just
Costco.
bam,
Costco. Yeah. Costco.
broke in half.
Yeah. Oh,
It has consequences, people. Like
yeah.
we need to learn how to not. This is why it's so important. Yes, I need to learn how to not take it personally, but sometimes there's a wave of energy. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where there's just a wave of that kind of energy, and you can't actually get away from it.
Yep. Yep. I found the same thing. And, back to the criticism that was coming at you, kind of a hook onto that. Was there ever a point where it, it actually made you feel good looking back that maybe consciously you wouldn't say it, but there was like an unconscious draw of, I have to stay in this. I don't know if you ever felt that way.
I don't know. I felt more like this is what I think led to my very rebellious behavior
Hmm.
at the end of the marriage
Yeah. Hmm.
because I was earnestly working on it. I was in weekly psychotherapy, plus occasionally he would go to couples therapy with me. So I was earnestly working on this relationship. I really was working to do my best to make it better. I wasn't really great about speaking what I needed all the time or standing up because it seemed like there were too many arguments happening. Like I don't like that many arguments. It's
Yeah.
overwhelmed, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't seem to be like a lot of spaciousness to process things. It was more like constant pinging and demands. So I feel like by the end, I had this, it's my villain era now. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I just went full villainess. Like
Yep.
I was like, yeah, I'm a villain now. All the things you said about me, now I really am going to be those things. I guess I'll just be bad. It's easier.
Hmm.
I'll just be bad.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I was for like 2, 3 years at the end of the marriage. I was very bad.
Yeah.
I did a lot of
Yeah.
painful, hurtful things. And yeah, it did kind of feel good at that
Yep.
moment because I think it was because of all the resentment
Yeah.
built up.
Yeah. I understand. Um, there's a lot I want to speak to because what you just shared is so rich and there's so much I think people can take away. I think one thing for me I found that probably connects with you is I found it was much easier to just know what somebody thought of me and what they needed me to be. It was much easier to exist and to feel the illusion of love that way than to have the energy and boundary to be myself and to guard against that. And it was like an existence. It's almost like a weird effed up oxytocin strategy is to have my brain chemistry regulated, I need to be in love. And to be in love, I need to find individuals and understand how I need to be. And then I can exist fully to them. Because if you're present with me, regardless of my chameleon like ways, it'll actually feel like love. And that's all total BS. Love is this capacity to be totally present with all that somebody is and be truthful and honest and be there with somebody and allow that. The anger somebody might bring, the sadness, like there's no blissful, happy, oh, we love each other. And it's like people are infinite creatures. And to be fully with somebody is a radically incredible experience to be a human. And all your past lives and archetypes that are flowing through you and your parts and the aspects of your I mean, it's like a rich, amazing experience. But it's like I've gotten to the point of why would I settle for masking when now I'm experiencing somebody through my mask instead of directly as I am, two people in this infinite capacity to be present and love one another. I mean, it's like it's shifted, but it's so hard when all those BBs are getting thrown at you. And um who knows what healing looks like really, but I'd say one important thing was this body code work. I would call this guy every week and I would say, here's my question. Is there something in my field from this relationship? And we would spend an hour and he would go through and say, oh, I'm muscle testing, I'm body testing. Yes, it is. It's in your heart. It's from 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It was this. He'd go back to these memories and say, oh, there was anger from this relationship in you. Oh, there was anger you had still stuck in you. Oh, there was an image this person had that they put into your system saying that they want you to think about them. Oh, there was a curse because somebody had such incredible feelings. They whispered underneath their breath, ooh, I wish John fill in the blank. Oh, there's a sacral to sacral connection this person formed. And I think I probably did that 30 times and spent thousands of dollars going through my entire field and seeing how much was in my field and how much all that was causing me to mask and shift and adjust or even spend energy thinking about somebody. It was like this image of somebody would come up every month, and I'm like, no. And it gives you this piece of like separating like who the hell am I versus like what is all this soup that I'm swimming in and how can I have the boundaries to like burn all this away? How can I get so angry, not at people, but just of like this how far we can forget who we are and allow ourselves to get so far from remembering who we are that like this anger of okay, I'm tired. I'm so exhausted. I cannot keep pretending anymore. And you can just burn all that energy away. It's like I've lived through that and felt it, and I think it happens to everybody. We just don't know it. We don't know it. And you don't know what choices you're making are really yours or somebody else's or why. And it's like, how much agency do we really have without being conscious of what we're really doing to each other. Like you said, just by whispering, oh, I wish Kerri, blah, blah. Um, so
Yeah, you
I
can feel
really,
it. I mean, and plus you can feel when people are spying on you too, psychically. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, it
I
is. Yeah.
the
Yeah. So,
chameleon, you said two things. Chameleon,
mhm,
that was really interesting. Yeah, why is it a problem that we're malleable, that we're
mhm,
adaptable, that I mean, water changes form. You pour water into a vase, it's a different form than you pour it into a
yeah.
pan. It takes the shape of whatever you pour it into. Why is it a problem? It's a problem for this society because they expect you to have like your personality chiseled in stone. And like you
Hmm.
should always be that from day one to day, the day you die. And then they'll know that it was you and it was real. And it's like,
Hmm.
I'm a shaman. So like I don't actually, that's not true. I would
Hmm.
say can tap into something true within myself. But if we look at the feminine, if we look at the faces of the feminine energy, it changes. It's it changes all the time, and when
Yeah.
we're empaths, we're really tuned into that feminine energy that changes all the time. So why is it a problem for us to change? You know,
Hmm.
and because other people don't change. That's why. Because a whole society based on people not changing and security is built into this not changing thing. But then, like, what if somebody's in addiction? Don't you want them to change that? And
Yeah.
in order to change that, wouldn't they have to shift some aspect of themselves or some core fundamental piece? And that would
Hmm.
change how they show up in the world. And it would even change how they look, even change their facial features, even change, how they breathe and walk in the world. It's like change is where we're headed.
Yeah.
And I think it's our world opening up. So I'm really excited. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's been like so much judgment for being a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
I'm a shapeshifter. Yeah, that's what I came here. I am that. That's what I am.
Hmm. I do. I think there's this misunderstanding with change. Sometimes I, in channeling, there's a sense that the more formless you go up, there's these archetypal energies that bring something like what is time or what is love, and there's a purity and an essence and a depth in that, and then it's like it gets refracted through all these layers of light into, oh, the feminine, it's Sophia, but it's Mother Mary, it's um
It's
you know
Guadalupe. It's Tenoncine.
yeah, and
It's
it kind of,
Kalima.
yeah, it is, and it's in these forms. But then when it comes to us, we get time and space that all these things can flow through us. We get a little bit of love, we get a little bit of anger, we get a little bit of this, we get a little bit of Kali, we get a little bit of Saint Michael, we get a little bit of like some Peruvian things. Like all these things get to mix and meld and create this experience, and we get time to enjoy it. It's like we're not in this weird static space of consciousness where it's like all things all time. Um, I think that then you appreciate time as something totally incredible, and the only way change can happen is that there's time. And I think that's one idea that I've been sitting with lately, and then just an idea of emergence is all these things that I've been. If I can go into like what is self, this eternal part of me that's connected to something in the collective, I can see how my ego, has tried to set people free in relationships. And I've overserved and overfunctioned just thinking, oh, if I can just free you from your ego, then you can be present with me. Or, oh, if I can make a lot of money for everybody in my team, then everybody can be present. And, that's an aspect of me. And there's this persona of me, and there's this other part of me, and there's this chameleon part of me, and there's my Pluto moon part, and there's my Chiron part, and there's this little baby that felt so abandoned that literally just wants to like connect to you and love you. And like all of those are emerging. And through time, I get to experience a little bit of that ego part and this part and this part and this part. And it's always shifting, but it's all of me. And it's emerging, and I get to share in that with people. And it's like, without time or change, we don't get to really emerge. And um, that I think is the other side of it. And it's like, are people afraid of dying? Maybe because they're afraid of time. Are people afraid of change? Or are people just really afraid of just emerging and all these shameful, ugly, crazy parts that they're just so afraid to come out. It's like maybe they're just afraid of time catching up with that.
I think it's actually also a little bit of stupidity.
Mhm.
I just saw
Yeah.
this. I just saw this video yesterday. That's why it's on my mind. But it was talking about how, like, how do good people go against their values and do like really bad stuff or like believe
Hmm.
in back people, I don't know, leaders who are really doing bad things. How do you, and then justify it? Like, how do you do that? And
Hmm.
it's because of intellectual laziness. It's
Hmm.
like you get, in social media, it helps us with our intellectual laziness, right? It's like, okay,
Hmm.
your team is blue, your team is red. And then whatever the red team says, you do it. And whatever the blue team says, you do it. And, you know, like those of us trying to be purple, the
Hmm.
intellectual, it takes time to look at different perspectives than your own. It not only takes time, but it takes determination to lean through the cognitive dissonance, to be uncomfortable,
Hmm.
to understand somebody else's perspective. And that happens all the time in relationship.
It
Like
does.
we have to learn how to find a framework for being present with the people in our relationships in such a way that we can hear their perspective and we don't make it about ourselves. We know it's like, that's why I love the four agreements. It's their stuff. It's
Hmm.
their worldview. They're sharing it with me. Okay, cool. And then I can receive that and share, well, this is my worldview. This is what I'm seeing, if they're open, right? Because a lot of times they're not. It's better if we just listen to them for a while. But
Yep.
at some point, you want a relationship where you can be listened to as well. And I think that's the
Yep.
thing with the empath, is that many times, like, we're the ones that are giving grace to other people who aren't able to embrace perspectives out of their own because they have a very narrow focus of like what they think is true and what they want and
Yep.
who they think they are and what they think life is. And this is a one right way and there's only one right way. And I spent 20 years saying there's more than one right way.
Hmm.
There's so many ways, it's infinite. Like it's
Yep.
way more than one way.
Hmm.
And it was just crazy to be having that conversation, right?
Yep.
And I think at some point it has this expiration date because you wake up and you realize, I don't want to work quite that hard.
Hmm. I think it's beautifully said. I wish we could enter an era of like the great unlearning. It's where unlearning about things became the reward. Where I could say, Kerri, I've spent 7 years with you and I've learned so much about you, and every day I'm unlearning these aspects that aren't truly you, and I can hold those, and I'm relearning the depth of you, and I can do that so quickly that I'm here with you. I'm not trapping you in a projection. I'm not transferring something. I'm not having some expectation or some definition. It's just I can be with you in this present moment of you emerging. And I think it's really hard to unlearn, because like our whole society is based on, you get money the more you know, and based on the more you know, the more value you can create.
Well, I mean, let's just say
It's
like there's
hard to get
people
out of
that
that.
are still taking their daily um guidance from a book that was written 2000 years ago
Yeah.
or more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's like times they are changing, if we let
yeah.
times change and if we let ourselves to evolve, and this is another not favorite word of many people on the planet, that evolve. But like
Hmm.
that's what we're doing. We're evolving whether or not we want to. Life is evolving us. It is kicking our butts collectively right now, saying, get unstuck. And if you
Yeah.
if you don't leave that job, I'm going to take it away. If you don't, listen to what I'm saying, I'm going to make you break your kneecap. If you, I mean, life is just, it's like, get out of your own way. Like we
Hmm.
we want things to open up. Our souls are ready to express. They're ready to blossom in a new way. And we've
Hmm.
already played out, like we already played Monopoly. Let's just say the family's been at the Monopoly table now for how many thousands of years? And
Hmm.
there's a few players still trying to win. Like, I want to be the most. I want to win. And the
Hmm.
rest of us are like, we're done with that game. Like, there's so many other games we could play.
Hmm. Very true. Yeah. And each game, I think, takes us to understanding what is it? Like, why are we here? Who are we really? I think you've got to evolve the game and realize there's something different that's always been there. We just haven't seen it. I mean,
Other
even in
cultures paid attention to it. Shamanic cultures paid attention to other
yeah,
games besides Monopoly.
yeah. Well, that's why I really appreciate shamanism and just in writing the book and what you've expressed. Um, in studying Carl Jung and his journey, I perceive him to be a shaman, which is this like capacity to go to this unconscious realm where there's so much stuff happening. It's in dreams, it's when you daydream, it's in content that you're not seeing, it's in love and relationships, and it's the capacity to go into that and understand how to communicate with the collective psyche, with your psyche, and see these symbols and to interpret it and have a richer meaning of what is really the truth of what's happening. And and then how do we hold that truth and allow people the agency and power to integrate that and see beyond what they think is happening in front of them. And that's why I so connect to this idea of shamanism. To me, it was the origin of psychology. It was the origin of healing. It was the origin of how we understood who we were. This capacity to observe all the darkness in us, to understand in that darkness is the rainbow. It's where the light really happens. And that's kind of poetic, but that's why I like shamanism. It gives me a chance to, in the writing the book, it's what's really happening inside of me, and all around me.
And it gives you a bigger picture too. Like if you were only looking at this lifetime, then you could probably judge yourself, as I did, pretty harshly for some of the things I did at the end of my marriage, right? If you're just looking at
Yeah.
the context, and I can look at the history of our relationship and say, well, I understand why I ended up doing that, right? We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you look at the bigger picture of multiple lifetimes and the arc of the time with that soul, you can really start to understand why, oh, okay,
Mhm.
there was a little bit of payback there for some other things
Mhm.
previously in other lives. Okay,
Yep.
but that was something Kerri didn't necessarily know much about. But that's something that my soul definitely knows, and his soul definitely knows. And so there's that also that, like, okay, we were playing with karmic partners. And I remember, my teacher, when I went to Alberto Vialda, I was into training with him probably like a year after a year and a half after I left my marriage. And I started training with the Four Winds Light Body School. And one of the first things he said, I remember it so clearly. He said, you know, when you meet somebody and there's like lightning across the room and you're like, you think that's love because you've never had anything like that happen before. And I was like, yes, I totally had that with this guy. And he's like, that person killed you in another lifetime or did something equally as heinous,
Yeah.
and in that case, yeah, I've researched it. I know who he was and what happened, and it was
Yep.
dastardly. And so of
Mhm.
course, like when you look at it from that bigger perspective, you go, oh, well, that makes sense. And then you kind of go, okay, well, everything balances out in the universe.
Yep.
And I have a completely different perspective of it now that I've gone on the journey and I've taken the tour and I've seen all the lives and I've seen the interactions between us and what happened.
Yep. I was lucky enough to be in a relationship where um, my capacity to kind of tap in and read maybe what the self was trying to say or soul was trying to say, and her capacity to do Akashic records and do astrology. It was intense, but it really was love. It was this force that was trying to get, I think, at least me, for me to change, and was trying to break all these glass cages I was in. And it was part of our relationship was, okay, I'm tapping in the Akashic records, and I see like in a past life you were a pilot and you ran out of fuel and you ditched. So part of this was this warrior mentality that did this, and another past life, we've been married a lot and we always have children, but then you go off to war and I always feel abandoned. So, this happens. And in this past life, this happened. And it's just, there are so many influences that are shaping what we're doing. And even in that unconsciousness of like, why did I just raise my arm? Or why did I say this to you? there's meaning and intent, and there's like a depth of what's trying to get exchanged. You can start to see like how all time is playing out in every single thing you're doing with the person. And to just have like a little sneak peek in our mind into like a fraction of a percentage of that is, I think, an incredible capacity to see love, and how, like, to me, it's like all this stuff was orchestrated, even during a breakup or a really hard time, or when I'm writing this book thinking the only way out is suicide. It's like, all of this is there in some way to help me realize who the heck I am. And it's those moments where I can like see through Akashic records or something else that, I don't know, give me faith that, there is something we're going towards. There's a reason for existing.
Yeah, and I also, when you start remembering that, you also remember I'm only going to come back again, so I might as well just stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
You start realizing, I'm just going to have the same. If I don't learn these lessons, I'm going to be in the same configuration again in some way, because I'll, whatever isn't resolved has to be resolved, and it's not even.
Yep.
It's kind of energetic, right? It's energetic resolution of energies back to harmony is what we're talking about, whether they're karmic past or they're ancestral or wherever it comes from. But it opens up a whole nother conversation, was I think what we're trying to say. Like, it seems like madness. What we're talking about seems like madness to the empire world, the matrix world, but the way that they're living is so disconnected from any context. It's just, it's disconnected from anything but the ideology that they want to promote. That's pretty much it. And it's not connected to the earth. It's not connected to sustainability. It's not connected to the ancestors. It's not connected to your soul or a bigger vision of yourself. It's not connected to spirit. It's connected to, this ideology, this systemic structures and ideologies that they want to promote. And until you realize that, you are kind of in a lot of glass cages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how can you hold both? I think that was the origin of this title of this book, is life and death, love and hate, good, bad, right, wrong, existence, non-existence. Like, there's these paradoxes we have so much. And I think it's part of life too. It's like life can be really horrible, and it can be a whole lot of suffering. And that suffering, it helps us show that like we are beautiful people that have this divine spark, and it's incredibly lovely. And love can be that way. It's a horribly lovely experience. And it's like, how can you hold the depth of both? And just every once in a while, get a peek into who you really are. But it's not through, I think, where we started. Like, for me, it's not through what everybody tells you are, or how you fit in, or the masks. Like, the journey into the lovely part of you it has to go through some aspect of madness where you feel so untethered, you have no choice but to actually look at who you are. It's the only thing left you can hold on to.
Yeah, I love that. And it's worth it, you guys. Like, on the other side is so much sanity and groundedness and connected and alive and open, listening. It's and just so much mysticism and so much affirmation of your divine self. It's a really beautiful journey. I just welcome everybody to take it and go a little bit crazy, go a little bit mad, and on the other side, you'll see why.
It helps. Just like even in this idea of the chameleon, I think you start to see that both exist. Is I can be the chameleon because I want to exist to you, and I want to be present, and I want to be part of a family. And there's a lot of things around freedom, and I'll wear a mask to pretend to be something so that you can trust me, so that then I can engage and I can get in there and see what's happening. All in this weird pursuit of, if you could be free to be yourself, then I can be free to be myself, and then I can be weird, and we can be weird together, and everything will be blissful and total ego. And I can also hold that I do have the capacity to understand and wear masks, and for people to project things onto me. And I don't have to do it in some pursuit for others to be free. I can just be free who I am. And the freedom exists in my capacity to wear masks and to be there with you and be present and just exist as I am. And it's like both are true, and they're kind of serving the same thing that I want to do. They're just one pattern's really exhausting and hard. One pattern's really alive and embodied. And it's like, either way, it's not the wrong choice, but we get to choose to really understand why we're doing things from their place of fear or a place of like freedom and existence. I think when you can see that and you can see, I'm doing the same behavior, but I understand why I'm making this choice, and it's so much easier. Just
Yeah.
then things make sense. It's like, oh, okay.
That's beautiful. Well, I know this book is fantastic, you guys. So you're going to have to check it out. Horribly Lovely. I did find it on Amazon, and I'll put the link in the show notes below so you guys can access it. But is there I know I'm going to put a link in there for the book. Is there anything else that you want to share for how people can work with you or get to know you?
We didn't talk about it a lot. Maybe it's another show. I think I call it the stages of messiness. I think we are messy humans, and I think you got to embrace. I'm in this stage, and shit's really messy, and it's okay, and it's beautiful. And I kind of liken that to the stages of alchemy. Alchemy is kind of a hard word to understand. So there's a messiness quiz or an alchemy quiz, and I think it's a good chance to like normalize what you're going through and not feel shame that you're getting torn to pieces, or you're in a weird spot or spiritual bypass, or you're in this like cage and you can't get out. So I think like having a map and understanding like there is some intention. There's a plan here somewhere. So there's a quiz you can take. And if you take the quiz, you could just book some time with me, and I'd love to just talk about your journey. So that's an easy thing to do if you just go to horriblylovely.com.
Beautiful. I will put all of that in the show notes, everybody. So thanks for staying with us till the end. And don't forget, you guys, like, subscribe, share this out with anybody that you feel might really enjoy this conversation. And here come your kisses. I like to give people kisses if you want to join me.
Oh, sure.
You don't have to, but Reiki kisses.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Here they come, everybody. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning into Soul Nectar Show week after week and sharing it out. We appreciate you. Here come kisses.
I sent energy kisses, so I sent it a different way.
Okay.
I appreciate it. That's fine. Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now. If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are.